Welcome to Concept. I'm Dr. Bill Loveless, and we're happy that you've tuned in today, and thank you for listening. We're going to talk about glue, commitment, the glue in relationships. What we mean by that is commitment is that transaction between two people that causes them to stick together through thick and thin. And that's the operative word today, through thick and thin, and glue. Those are the glue and thick and thin, and that everything has to do with that. So commitment is the glue in relationships. It's that which helps us keep going when things aren't going so well. And that's really what it's all about. So let's take a look at the key dimensions in this commitment. It's important for you to listen carefully because this is kind of crucial to all relationships, not just marriage, but parents and children, friends, employees and employers. Every place where we have relationships, we need to understand these kinds of understandings, because glue, which keeps a relationship going, is the commitment that people have to each other, and that which they have to each other grows over time. So let's look at the key dimensions in commitment. One is personal dedication. That kind of comes about when we say, I like you. Or in the case of marriage, couples say, I love you. I like you, then I love you, and I'm committed to you. And number four, no matter what happens. So it kind of goes in steps. Personal dedication comes about when people say, you know, I can't get along without you. I love you so much. I want to be with you the rest of my life. And the good part of this is it feels so good. You've seen people in love, and you've been in love probably several times maybe as you watch this program, and you know how it feels to be in love. Well, in the early part of love, it feels very euphoric. In the latter part, where commitment is kind of kicked in, it feels just very secure and feels very good. In both cases, it feels good, but it has a very different feeling. So personal dedication is that I'm committed to you, and I know you're committed to me, and that feels very good, and this is what we mean by being in love. There's another way to look at it: desire to prove the love relationship, to sacrifice for it, and to invest in it. That's really what we're talking about when we're talking about personal dedication. Now let's take a look at the second part of commitment. That's the first part. Personal dedication is the first part. The second part is what I call constraint commitment. This is the application of personal force to maintain a relationship regardless of whether it's waning, fading, or growing. In other words, we've been at this relationship 20 years, we've been at this relationship 30 years, 40 years, whatever, and as time has gone on, the personal dedication and the warmth that we feel for each other, which has got to be there for it to be real, is replaced by a constraint commitment, by a commitment that, you know, no matter what happens here, I'm with you. Even when I feel bad about you and when you feel bad about me, we've got that glue that keeps us glued together, and we're going to stick together. We've been together so long. Look at some of the constraints, for instance, that married couples who have been at it a long time have. We've been at this a long time. Why should we even consider divorce? Divorce would cost us too much money. That's a constraint. Do you know how much divorce costs today? The average divorce in the United States right now is running between $10,000 and $15,000. And some of them go a lot higher than that. Some of them a little less, but not much if you have attorneys. Divorce is expensive. It's a constraint to keep you together. Another constraint, what would the family say? I mean, we've been together 30 years. This is kind of a stupid thing to even consider leaving after 30 years, what would our kids say? What would our relatives say? These are the constraints that come in. You're sick, I'm taking care of you. All kinds of these constraints. This constraint is the application of personal force to maintain a relationship regardless of whether it's waning or fading in terms of personal love and desire and devotion. So we have the key dimensions of commitment. There's the personal side, I'm in love. The second one is constraints. We stay together regardless of how we feel or what's happening because it's the right thing to do. You have to have both of those. You don't just have to have one, you have to have both because it's necessary in commitment. If we have that glue that kind of keeps us stuck together, to have both personal dedication, personal desire and warmth, and also constraint commitment, which I'm here no matter how I feel. It's the right thing to do. It's a promise I made. It's going to cost too much to get out of it anyway. It's going to upset everybody, including me and the whole family. So we're together no matter what. This is kind of the two aspects of commitment that we need to take very, very carefully. There's some additional support for remaining a relationship. And one of those, and that's what everybody wants out of the relationship, is satisfaction. I'm getting something out of this. I like this relationship. I like you. I like how I feel. I'm satisfied. So that's a very basic function of commitment. I like you. I like the way I feel when I'm with you. I like what's going on between us. There is a relationship satisfaction going on here that's very special. Secondly, the degree to which a couple is pleased with the relationship, which says we're a team, we're together in this. This is something which we feel very crucial about, and it's something which brings us a great deal of satisfaction. The other side of it, and this has more to do with the other side of commitment, is the relationship stability. In other words, I am not only satisfied in this relationship, it's a stable relationship. There's a permanence about this relationship which I like very much, which makes me feel good about what's happening and which makes you feel good about what's happening. So we get satisfaction and we get stability out of this relationship. Now, constraints increase as a function of time. Why? Remember, there's personal satisfaction and constraints. More has been invested in this relationship as time goes by. It's less wise to get out of it. It's less wise to leave it. It's more important to be able to keep going. So we have a lot invested in this relationship. Secondly, others, family and friends, come to expect it and want it to continue. And I've already mentioned that, so it's very important that you have that in the situation that you're in. And ending a relationship, as I said to you, is complicated. Hey guys, it costs an awful lot of money to get divorced nowadays. So don't consider that lightly. It's far better to see if you can work things out and get that good old commitment going, that glue that keeps people together, than to try to mess around getting out of it, because it causes all kinds of problems. The grass is seldom greener on the other side of the fence. I wish I had a nickel for every couple. I've said to them, let's work on this. Let's see if we can get our constraints going. Let's see if we can get our satisfactions going. Let's see if we can get our personal commitments going and get some glue going here so the two of you feel better about the long-term effects of, no, we're done, we're out. And you know what? Second marriages have a far greater failure rate than first marriages. 12% higher, in fact. The United States, right around 49, 50% divorce rate. Second marriages, 62% divorce rate. 12% higher. That's a gamble I'm not ready to recommend to anybody. The grass is seldom greener anyplace else. far better to stay there and keep working. Okay, look at the alternatives. The alternative may become less attractive, and personal dedication moves from caring about to caring for. That happens over time, and that can take place over time. To care about, to caring for. And you move in then to the commitment phase, to the glue phase, where people stay together. There are certain beliefs and expectations about a relationship that I want to talk about with you today. These beliefs and expectations are oftentimes never spoken. They're never articulated. We just assume we know what they are. But basically, most of the time, we don't. Number one, assumption: we know how our partner should behave. Have you told him or her how they should behave? Have you said, here's what I expect. I'm disappointed, or I'm happy. Thank you for doing that. Much of the time we go through life unarticulated. We don't say what we want. We don't ask for what we need. We don't ask for what we want. We assume somebody else should understand that. Shouldn't my husband or my wife know what I need and want? No, the answer is they shouldn't, unless you tell them. Major family decisions. Who makes the major family decisions? The chances are pretty good in your family. The decisions regarding money, the major decisions are made in the way your own family of origin did. In my family of origin, my mother took care of the checkbook. She balanced the checkbook. My father would have been hopeless at that, as am I. So what happens in my family? My wife balances the checkbook. I take care of the investments. She balances the checkbook. That's the way it was in my family. Not in her family. In her family, her father balanced the checkbook. But she got her father's genes. So money, major decision in the family, is taken care of as it was in my family, not in hers. But she functions very well as her father did in her family. She got his genes. She loves to do it. She does it very well, and believe me, I'm very pleased to have her do it. It's relieved me of all kinds of problems, as you know. Sexual preferences. What do you need and what do you want sexually? What do you expect to happen in marriage? I see a lot of couples who never say to each other what they expect or what they want or what they need. Who makes decisions and how are they made in your family? Another basic question. We kind of journey into marriage with the expectations that what happens in marriage will happen with what was going on in courtship while we were dating somebody else and finally asked them to marry us and they said yes. And so we assume that what we did before we got married is going to continue on. Don't ever go there. It's not going to be that way. It's going to change. Why is it going to change? Because marriage changes everything. Dating and being in love and being engaged and planning to be married is not like being married. It's very different. And so we have a whole set of expectations. A clue to our personal expectations. Listen to me carefully. A clue to our personal expectations is found in what disappoints us. If you really want to know what your expectations are, think about what you're disappointed with in your spouse. And that will give you a clue as to what you thought was going to happen in this relationship. And of course, because you never ask for it, or you never say what you need or want, your spouse is in mystery land, trying to guess all the time as to what you need and want from him or her, and you're not saying much about it, so that's very difficult. Commitment requires a very special climate to flourish, a very special climate. You know what a climate is. California climate, much of the time sunny. New England climate, much of the time sunny or snowing. Southern climate, northern climate. You know what climate means. Climate is a way in which we live that causes us to flourish. And people like different kinds of climate. I can get along in several different kinds of climate, both cold and hot. I like them both and can survive well in both. Not everybody can do that. So commitment requires a special climate to flourish. Let's take a look at what kind of climate is best when we talk about the glue that keeps people together. Number one, a long-term view of the relationship provides glue. When I know that you're planning to stay with me forever, and you know that I'm planning to stay with you forever, regardless of what happens between us, that's a glue. That's a commitment. That's the very thing we're talking about today. When both partners are clearly aware the other has a point of view that provides long-term commitment, we understand that to be a special, flourishing climate for our commitment. Number two, both dedication and constraint produce a sense of permanence. Remember, dedication is that personal attraction, and constraint is that we're committed to this no matter what. So we're attracted to each other, we're also committed to each other, and we're going to stick with this no matter what. So both dedication, the personal, I feel warm and fuzzy, that's important, but also when I don't feel warm and fuzzy, I am committed. There is a constraint that constrains me to stay here. Those together produce a sense of permanence. Number three, a resilience. A resilience accepts the realization that no relationship is constantly satisfying. We're not going to be in euphoria land all the time we're married. There will be depressions and oppressions and high spots, low spots. A resilience accepts all of this as part of what makes this relationship work. Number four, abandoning a focus on the immediate payoff ameliorates relationship anxiety, resentment, and distrust. What do we mean by that? That's a big long words there. Abandoning a focus on immediate payoff. In other words, we are committed to the long haul, no matter what happens between us. Anxiety and resentment and distrust are not going to separate us from each other. They're not going to take away the commitment that we have. That we're in this for a focus that's permanent. You know that, and I know that, and that's the way it's going to be. Now, there's some very interesting things that happen to us, and I'd like to have you get your pencil out and just check these off as we go through them. Here's a checklist to determine the dimensions of your commitment. How committed are you, is the question I'm asking now. How deep and broad is your commitment? Here is a checklist to kind of determine the dimensions of your commitment. You want to know how your commitment's doing today, how that glue is sticking you together with your partner. Take a look at some of these questions, and we'll kind of check them off as we go along. Do you want and foresee a long-term future for your relationship? We've talked a lot about that because that's so very, very crucial. A long-term commitment. If that's the case with you, then question number one in the checklist is, yes, I want a long-term future for this relationship. So my checklist number one is yes, strong. Checklist question number 2. Are you a team? Not an enmeshed blob, but two individuals solidly joined in a couple identity. Wow, is that ever a mouthful? Let's parse that sentence out. Before you check yes on that one, let's take a look at it. Are you a team? Not an enmeshed blob. What do we mean by an enmeshed blob? Look at my hands. This is an enmeshed blob. You can't see two people, it's just a blob. They merge so close together that they've lost their individuality. They're not like this, they're like this. Oh, I have to ask him first. I have to ask her. Oh, my goodness, we have to, a blob, an enmeshed blob. Where are you two individuals? Solidly joined in identity, but separate and distinct from each other. And willing to be separate and distinct from each other, wanting to be separate and distinct from each other, celebrating being distinct from each other, and happy with that. So question number 2, let's look at it now and see if you can check that one, how you're going to check that one. Question number 2, are you a team, not an enmeshed blob, but two distinct individuals solidly joined in a couple identity? If your answer is yes, check yes. If your answer is I'm not sure, check I'm not sure. Yikes, if this has come to you as a surprise, yeah, we are kind of a blob. Check that and then decide what we want to do about it. Checklist question number 3. In all you do, does the relationship get primacy? And what does primacy mean? Primacy means importance. In all that you do, does the relationship with your partner become the most important thing? The marriage or the relationship is the most important thing. Your wishes, his or her wishes, are not the most important thing. The most important thing is the relationship. When two people get married, they both say the most important thing to us is the marriage. Not my wishes, his wishes, her wishes, our wishes, the marriage. If you can check yes to number 3, check yes to number 3, the relationship gets primacy. Let's go to question number 4. To what degree are you checking out and seriously thinking about being with others? Come on, be honest now. To what degree are you looking at some other man or some other woman and saying, you know, boy, I would sure have a lot of fun there. I think this would be a whole lot better than I'm in. We call that the wandering eye. To what degree are you checking out and seriously thinking about being with others? If the answer is yes, to that question, beware. If the answer is no, tell me for what reasons. So it's a valid reason that brings you satisfaction and has to do with the constraints involved in this relationship and with the satisfactions in this relationship. Okay, let's go to the next ones. Are you willing to put aside some of your desires for what is best for your partner? Are you willing to put aside some of your desires for what is best for your partner? In other words, you give up Monday Night Football to go out. Guys, hello. Are you willing to put aside some of your desires for what is best for your partner? The answer is yes. Good. I'm willing to put aside some of it, because that's what people have to do when they become in a relationship. A relationship means you have to set aside some of your desires for the sake of your partner. That's what it all means. That's what it's all about. Number 6, does it give you pleasure to do something that really helps your partner? And I'm looking down the barrel of a camera right now, and I'm sure that most of you are going to be able to say yes to this. I trust you to say that, and I know that's probably where most of you are living. Yes, it gives me pleasure to do something that really helps my partner. Yes, I get satisfaction out of that. So check that. We're doing a checklist on your own compatibility right now. And number 7, though not necessarily able to forget, are you willing to forgive and not get even for something your partner has done? There's no more important point in our checklist today in commitment than this last one on the list. Though not necessarily able to forget, are you willing to forgive? Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. When bad things happen to us, we usually never forget it. But we can move on, and the power can be taken away by forgiveness. So are you willing to forgive and not get even for something that your partner has said or something your partner has done? We've talked today about glue. Commitment, which is the glue that keeps two people together. Personal feelings of warmth and love are satisfactory, and constraint commitment, which brings satisfaction. We've had the checklist. We've asked you, is this permanent? Is this something you're going to do? Is this something that brings you a lot of satisfaction? And most of you have said yes. Everybody does something to their partner that the partner doesn't like and resents. Don't get even. Forgive. Confess and forgive. This is the way to use the glue of commitment in a permanent relationship. After all, don't try to be perfect. There's really no way any of us can be perfect anyhow, in spite of the fact that some of us think we can. Don't try to be perfect, but do try to do better. That's something you only can do.